In the opening level of The Prince of Persia: The Sands of Time, the player character must traverse a large structure that is being attacked by an enemy army. During this level, the enemy army is catapulting large boulders into the structure that you're attempting to traverse. And the first time we see one is during the opening scene where we're first introduced to the player character, the prince. As the camera pans up, we see the first boulder fly overhead during the cutscene. When you gain control of the prince, as you walk forward towards your allies, another boulder flies into your allies, killing them and blocking your path. This boulder is, much like most of the boulders in this level, is triggered by what is likely a trigger box that when the player walks through the box, it triggers the boulder to collide with the structure and the ally characters and destroys them. The reason I think that it's a trigger box is because if you wait in the position where you start for any amount of time, the boulder will not show up. So once you get your first path blocked, you have to climb up the stone structures that were next to you, and another boulder will fly overhead, impacting the building. This is another case where if you stand around for a while, this boulder will not hit the building, so it's likely again triggered by a trigger box that when the player collides with it or overlaps with it, it triggers the next boulder. This one doesn't block your path or do anything special other than just create some more drama, which some of them do later on. So as you traverse the structure, you find yourself on a bridge that gets blown out by yet another boulder. And this one only slightly inconveniences you because then the player is instructed to jump over the blown out bridge. This boulder is also triggered likely by an overlap event. However, it doesn't just collide with the buildings like we've seen previously. It actually destroys a section of the environment, which is this area of the bridge. So there is an area of the bridge that is programmed to just disappear or get destroyed when collided with this particular boulder. Eventually, we enter an area where the player character has to fight a few enemies, and some boulders are flying in the background, hitting the structure in different ways. But they actually don't destroy anything. They're just kind of there to create drama. So in a sense, there are really two types of these boulders. There's the destructive type, we'll call it, that actually destroys a piece of the environment when it impacts. And then there are the drama type, we'll call it, which just hit the building and don't actually do any damage to the building. As the player progresses, there is another boulder, a destructive type boulder that destroys a piece of a bridge that you're attempting to traverse, and you're introduced to the wall running mechanic in order to get through. The last type of boulder is also a destructive type, but it actually opens up a new path for the player to actually enter the structure. So when the player enters this trigger box right here, a cutscene is triggered and a boulder hits the side of the building after the camera switches perspective so that you can see it, and it clearly opens a new path. The player is then reoriented and shown where the player character is standing and has to fight a few enemies before traversing a few ledges to make their way to the new path. Now, while the player also traverses these ledges, there are a few drama boulders that will hit the side of the building. They are no threat to the player. They're really just there to create drama.